Well, we are live, and I'm coming to you from the studio kitchen because we like to test our equipment before, not after, we have we go to the thing. And I'm looking here, looking at my mic, thinking I don't think my audio is doing what I want it to do. Well, it is. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if you can. Of course, nobody's on yet. It takes you guys a little while to filter in, but I am preparing a special surprise for the class today on fermentation. Tactical has been helping me get set up. Tactical, you stoked about helping me get set up today? So after the last webinar, I made a little bit of money, guys, on that, and that was pretty cool from a just making money standpoint. I like making money. I like money. But rather than take the money and go, hire a bunch of strippers and snort a bunch of coke, I decided I would invest in some better equipment for my kitchen studio. So what you're seeing right now is the result of that. Those of you, hey, I see a couple of you guys are there. Can you throw comments so I can just see what they look like? I've got my TV across the room where I can see it. And I just, is the sound good? Tell me if the sound's good. If you can hear me, am I overdriven? Because this is how we set levels. So, but I'm just getting ready for fermentation. Anyway, after the last one, I talked to Rebecca from Red Flyer Media, who does all of John Bush's from LiveFree.Academy. Well, maybe not all of it, but as much as he can get her to do, I'm sure, because she's that good. Is that a comment up there or no? Nope, no comment yet. Anyway, I talked to her about how to have better interfaces. Can they hear me okay? Okay, good. Is it overdriven, guys? Or is it like faint, or like, what do you think about the audio? I've been having a lot of fun trying to get this mic to work with my equipment. Anyway, I talked to Rebecca and I said, I'd like to up my game a little bit on this process, because I think it's a better experience when you can see what's really happening in the kitchen. Last time we had sort of a webcam attached to a cable that wasn't very long, and Tactical was carrying my computer and the webcam, and he was really trying to make sure you could see it. He did a great job, and he's going to do that again today, but he's also going to be manning the controls unless Letty pops up and says she has time to do it, because Letty just had a baby, and babies are important and take your time, especially early on. They're pretty dependent on their mothers. But we decided to buy this switch where I can set up multiple cameras to it. What's that comment say? Great. Oh, good morning. Who is it? Oh, Martinson family. Welcome. They're on my streams a lot. That's why I know who it is. I may actually bring a monitor closer to me because I'm looking at y'all all the way across my living room. So if you don't put all caps, I don't have any chance of seeing what you say. Anyway, Rebecca mentioned the ATEM, I don't know how you say that, Mini Pro, as sort of a switch between camera to camera. What I haven't figured out how to do with it is if it can do camera to computer and back, so that I could just hit button and then y'all can see my slides versus not. So what I'm going to do, and this is where Tactical comes in, there's going to be a second computer here hooked up to the Zoom meeting, and we're going to switch between computers manually, but I need to make sure that the audio stays primary through this one so that we don't have audio problems, because I'm pretty much the only one talking, although he may read questions. Hello, Mayhem Country Living. I can't read what you're saying because it's not in all caps, but Tactical can. And hello, whoever came after you. Yeah, I really feel like having a monitor closer to me in the kitchen studio would be great. So anyway, what happens when we do a webinar like this, it's kind of funny. You end up, like, we're doing fermentation today, right? Wow, this one still has a little thing on it. What'd they say? Awesome. Somebody else is setting up their ferments today. So what was I talking about? I don't even know. Tech. That's right. So just being able to switch from camera to camera is great. I need to figure out how to get from a GoPro, which has a USB-C out, to an HDMI. So it's like male USB-C to male HDMI in to get it into this thing. So that's going to be my next little trick. And we can switch to that. And if we can make it so that one of these 4 inputs is really my computer, like, can I go HDMI out? I don't know. It's tricky. Then I can just hit a button and you see the slide versus the camera. But it would be nice to have 2 cameras. In fact, if you want to see, this is what my kitchen looks like before the event. It's like, wow. Uh-oh, cord went out. So this is what happens. The cord's kind of going out. Hold on. Guys, bear with me on the video. We'll just unplug it, plug it back in. There you go. It's back, and then we're on a delay from Zoom. So this is what the kitchen looks like, right? There's the beans from the garden right over there. And this bag I got from the farmer's market. It went out again. Stop being an ass. So it went again, and then I have all this other stuff over here, which are just queued up for the class. Now I want to draw your attention to this bag, and I'm going to kind of orient the camera here. And I don't know why. So I fixed this yesterday, but the HDMI adapter kind of droops in the thing. Anyway, I got this bag at the farmer's market, and the thing is, we're not moving the camera during the session. I'm just doing it now. So this was $27 at groceries. So a lot of people are complaining about inflation right now. Check it out. This is $27. I've got collard greens from the farmer's market, right? We're having collard greens this week. I got a bunch of squash. This is a bunch of squash. So I'm just going to put this all on the counter so you can see it. I'm taking all the squash out. That's because my squash are dying back. I might get 1 or 2 more zucchinis. I got peppers. These are the peppers we got. I think I'm going to start doing some cooking classes on just how to cook from scratch, 1 lesson at a time, because this is how you kind of reduce the impact of inflation. I got a second kind of peppers. These are banana peppers. They're not hot. So that's pretty cool. I think I just went into like black and white mode somehow. What button did I hit? And then I got a bunch of zucchini. So we got zucchini here. And then I got cucumbers for today's class. And this entire bag was full for $27. Look at that. That's the booty for today. $27 worth of vegetables. These came out of the garden. That is enough food to feed like 3 of us with meat added for the entire week, probably longer than the week. I got extra peppers. Good morning, Tori. Good morning, Grace. Greg. Yep, shredding all the cabbage. So I thought that was pretty darn cool. We are going to work on the cabling issue. So we're going to go back to the kitchen. Prepared, not scared. That's right. Every time I move this camera, we blink in and out, but we can deal with that because I won't move it during the workshop. It's kind of funny that that's happening. It's funny. It was happening last night, and what I did was push this in more, and then it stopped happening. So I don't know. It's 100% related to this jack right there that I need to deal with, and I have to actually look at my computer. Does it have to be up? Yeah, that's what the deal is. So there's going to be, oops, I just hit record. You guys having fun watching me mess with my tech? Yeah, so there we go. Well, that was a good lesson for me. Don't ever actually move the camera. That would stink. I wonder why it has those funny colors. I guess it's probably because I don't have my studio lights in yet. Or maybe that's just my TV. You guys seeing funny colors up there? I don't know. We're going to hear some dogs barking today. But the fermentation class, what you have to do is have a ferment that's already done. So that was one I did this summer. Fermenting in the summer is less than ideal because of the temperature in the summer. It's very easy to ruin a ferment in the summer. A friend of mine told me it's just about cool enough at her house to start fermenting. That's probably why Tori's friend was busting out some sauerkraut. So you need to have something finished, a finished product to show people. Then this particular process, I need to think, okay, so we have like hour and a half for the session. We'll go longer if there are more questions. And, oh, there it went again. Boy, we're having issues and Tactical's dog is being a butt. So I may have to duct tape that. I'm going to have to duct tape this, guys. This is ridiculous. It was so not doing this before. That's okay. This is why we do the tech test. I wonder if do you have funny spots in there too? Nah, it's just my TV. Looks a little dark. Yeah, that's because I didn't bring my lighting out yet, Josie. Good morning, Josie. Anyway, this time of year is when we start fermenting. If you would think about what people who are living off the land had to do before canning, pretty much the only way to keep your vegetables through the winter is going to be fermentation or root cellar storage, right? And if you don't have a root cellar, then you're going to want to do fermentation to the best of your ability. Also, some vegetables don't store in a root cellar very well. Others do. It just depends on what you're doing there. So today's class, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about how lacto-fermentation goes, like what the chemical process is. I'm not gonna go into a chemist's analysis of the lacto-fermentation process. I'm gonna explain it in layman's terms because really that's all that matters. It's a scientific process, and a lot of times it's one of those things where there are recipes all over the place, and I'll share some of my favorite recipes. But it is also, how many people had precision scales 200 years ago when they were fermenting stuff? Do you think very many did? You know what I mean? See where I'm going with that? So we're going to talk about that too, because there's a lot of people who get pretty frantic about the whole process of fermentation, and we're all going to die. It's the same with canning. I don't know. A lot of you guys who listen to me, you already do all this stuff, which is kind of cool. And so you know how it is. You tell your friends, I'm going to can beans this weekend, and they freak out and say, what? You can beans? Oh my goodness, you're going to die. Home canned foods will kill you. And you're sitting there thinking, I've been doing this for 15 years or 3 years or whatever, and we've been eating what we grow, and it's kind of awesome on the budget. And and then I'm not dead yet. Like, what do we do about that? The anti-canning marketing is strong, and I don't know where it really originates from. I don't know if it's just some people need to say no, like sucks to be you sort of thing to people all the time, because they're afraid if you accomplish something that they're going to be further behind, and that's a bummer, right? Or if there's something more going on there. I've always wondered this, but that being said, we're going to talk about what foodborne pathogens can get in your way from lacto-fermentation versus not. I mean, the whole reason you ferment stuff is to make it last longer, make it taste better. It adds beneficial bacteria to your gut, which is kind of nice, I think. Having a happy belly is a good thing. So, yeah, that's all happening today. This is the most tedious of ferments to do that I'm doing right now. That's why I'm doing it now. We're about hour and a half out from the class, by the way. I'm sure all of you know. LiveFree.Academy /fermentation if you want to take the class. Yeah, usually I see tech time with scrambling. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I'm a little irritated about that cable, Tori. Like literally, I think I'm going to get duct tape from my junk drawer, which I just reorganized. So I lived here 15 years and have never actually audited and cleaned out my junk drawer in 15 years. And I've been on this tear to reduce stuff. And one of the things I did was go through the junk drawer. Wow, my hands are wet. This is not. Did you know duct tape doesn't work well wet? Who knew? So one of the things I've done, okay, we're taping it. Yes, that's right. See, we're taping it. So now it will punk out again because I actually just touched the camera. Come back to me. Okay. Why are you so... I wonder if I could go USB-C in. It's actually an interesting question. So I cleaned out the entire drawer, and that was pretty cool. Because, yeah, I'm fiddling with the camera again, guys. Sorry. That tells me there's a bad connection in this camera at this jack is the real issue. It didn't like the duct tape. Now it's not working at all. I've been working with this camera all morning since I got up, except for that time I went to the market. So, oh, I see what happened. If you turn the camera off, it doesn't send anything. That wasn't the cable. That was 100% me reaching around the camera and turning it off. You know, it's like the 80s when you had computer problems. They would say, hey, is your computer plugged in? And you'd roll your eyes and say, yeah. And then you'd go look and be like, well, gosh darn, if mom didn't unplug my computer last night or something. Most people have crabs in the bucket mentality. What is that? What is that, Mayhem? Crab in the bucket? Maybe they're crabby in the bucket? I don't know. It's just a good time. What do you guys want to hear about today? People have been conditioned to be afraid of food, of doing things. It's kind of one of those, your food's going to kill you. It's like everything's out to kill us. That's another problem is we think, and I feel like it wasn't this way before. And then we kind of, like in the 70s, I don't remember people freaking out about food that much. And I lived in a house with a food scientist, right? So I was hearing about all the other, in addition, the one that I don't want is botulism, right? Nobody wants you can probably get through E. coli. You can, maybe not. It kind of depends on which strain it is. You can kind of get through listeria. Same thing, depends on which strain it is. Botulism, without medical intervention, you are going to die. And that's the one I learned the most about growing up. Like my sister and I kind of joked, we got through our childhood, and every time we hear the word botulism, it was like a big old frantic thing because my dad really didn't want us to have botulism. So it was something we discussed in the household. And now people don't even know what it is. They don't know how it works, why they might need to be afraid of it. And the sad thing is, sometimes botulism exists in your commercial foods too, in the canned foods. Very rare because they raise the canned food to a higher temperature than a home canner can with their commercial equipment. But this year there was an outbreak in canned fish or seafood of some sort, botulism. And, again, if you don't, doctors aren't expecting that's what you're coming into the hospital with, right? If you don't identify it early and get on life support, you're screwed because it attacks your nerves. And that, it's like your body can't breathe because so you have to have something breathe for you. That's a very important thing. I saw a video of a lady who canned green beans and then served them, and she canned them in a pressure canner without reading how to use the pressure canner and didn't look up an official records. She didn't look up processing times or anything. And it turned out there was botulism in the beans, and she got sick. Her husband didn't. So, and I think he ate them too. So I don't know why that happened. It could be that when she opened the jar, maybe something got on her hand and she licked it. She doesn't remember. But it took her 6 months and needing to relearn how to speak, like that level of therapy. And she lived. So for 6 months, like she was in the ICU, I don't know for how long, on the breathing machine, and then came off the breathing machine, and then had to learn how to speak again and how to walk and all of those things. And that is kind of why I don't mess with botulism. People make fun of me sometimes because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I would, I definitely would not be into water bath canned meat. Can you do it? And is there a scientific reason why it probably would work? Yes. That is, there was people water bath canning meat before we had pressure canners. But you know what? Now we have pressure canners. And what they would do is can things for much longer than we do now in the pressure canner. And as a result, they would have canned foods that didn't spoil. And then they also would boil them on the way back out of the jar, which if there is a toxin in there, that breaks it down. But if you make one little mistake, there's botulism in there, and then you boil it, and for some reason, one part of the boil does not get hot enough for long enough, you don't kill the toxin. And so knowing what happens to you if you get botulism, you're probably going to die. And if you don't die, like that, as I said, 6 months, had to relearn how to walk, breathe, talk, all of those things because her entire nervous system was attacked. Good thing she didn't have any ongoing, like long-term paralysis, right? Knowing that, why would I mess with that? Get a pressure canner. I don't know how much the Presto pressure canners are right now. I paid $60 for mine 15 years ago. It is not the All-American, which is the gold standard of pressure canners, right? But the All-American is like $500 right now. $500. I don't have $500 for a canner. Do you? I don't. If you see your brothers getting better, pull them down and don't help them. That's most people. That's the crab in a bucket. I get you because we have a bunch of crabs in a bucket. That's 100% what they do. Okay, I'm moving on to a new vegetable. So excited to share this surprise with the people who take the class. They're going to be stoked when they see it. And I was not sleeping last night thinking about the class, and I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to prepare a surprise for them that's not listed on the curriculum. And then we're going to go from there, and I'll tell them about it in the class. And the reason I'm preparing this surprise is it's a really good visual, really, really good visual. And I like good visuals. I'm going to there. Okay, one more. So they'll be stoked when they see it. It'll bring home a concept that I'm covering about different ways of fermenting vegetables, because I'm showing 2 ways of fermenting vegetables, and then they will be able to do multiple things. We're totally going to extrapolate out to, I have a quarter tomato. I guess we're having a tomato salad tonight because I have a tomato and a quarter left, and we have basil coming off the garden, so that's like total win right there. Okay, if I move the camera, does it go out now? Oh, look at that, the duct tape for the win. Oh, actually, I can't tell. Woo! Jiggly! Jiggly, jiggly. This is the critical part. Some of you are already knowing what the surprise is for the class now. Hot damn! Signed up for Fermentation webinar today and Self-Reliance Festival Virtual Pass all in one swoop. All right, Tori, you got to get your question in for Self-Reliance Festival. We'll be taking questions live. So we'll do like one from the audience and one from people. Yeah, they'll say Presto cannons are about $140 now. So why would you not spend $140 to keep yourself out of the ICU for 6 months and risk water bath canning? Is it because you're scared about inflation? Guess what? That's going to be $240 next year, probably. Also, if you keep your eye on local sales, things like Craigslist or Facebook or GoLSN or Mercury or whatever works in your area, you can find canners that are used. And it is rare that a canner can't be updated or parts replaced for it to be usable. Case in point, I'm the person who inherits the canners when people who started canning. I should have totally worn gloves for this. I'm going to have capsaicin on my fingers and watery eyes for the rest of the day. So people decide I'm going to can, and then they decide I don't like canning. So right now I have my canner, my Presto that I got 15 years ago, still using it. I like to get the pressure gauge checked every year, at the local extension office. I have my friend April Johnson's pressure canner that she stopped using, and she's like, you can borrow it. And then she's like, if I ever need it, I'll let you know. And then when Tactical moved in, he came with his own Presto pressure canner. We have 3 canners here. So whenever I see somebody doing something unsafe, I reach out and say, would you like to borrow a canner for the week and get your stuff canned properly? I'll even show you how. I saw somebody do this the other day where they had green beans that they canned in their oven. They had it in their oven at 250 for 4 hours, and they were super excited. And I was like, well, that may have raised the temperature in the jar to 240, but it didn't, because there's no way, because water boils at a lower temperature, and then it's releasing energy. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, you're a friend. I don't want you to die. So, by the way, this is the finished product. It's going to look so pretty as a ferment, isn't it? Woo! Framing it. It's actually kind of nice. I can see the TV. I'm just on a bit of a delay. So reached out to her and I said, please don't eat those. But she posted a picture the same day that she canned them, which means botulism has not had time to grow in that, which is awesome. And I said, here's a link to somebody who had botulism. Here's what, here's the proper way to can it. And she's like, oh, I don't have a pressure canner. I just have a water bath canner. And I said, well, if you want to borrow mine, you can. You can even use my outdoor canning kitchen. It's fine by me. And she was like, nah, I said, they're not unsafe yet because you just canned them. So get them in the fridge and eat them or whatever. She ended up freezing them. And then she took her post down. But that means that somebody somewhere on the internet is telling people it's safe to can low acid foods in your oven, because by having it in the oven at 240 degrees, you are getting high enough, 240 being the temperature you want, or 250. So 240 being the temperature you want for botulism to be vamoosed. They're telling people that, and as a result, we may end up with another round of people who get sick because of advice they took on the internet. That's why for canning, I always look at the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and I look at their recipes, because what has happened over time since we first discovered pressure canning is that people in food labs all over the US do it, they do experiments. Like if you want to commercially produce something, you have to send your product in, and they have special systems with probes that measure how hot it is in various places in the container you're using, jar or whatever, or can. And those results tell you how long you need to process the item for, right? I'm missing a head of cabbage. See, now I'm just putting the vegetables out on the counter over here. I'm going to show you. Look at that. The camera didn't go out because I know how to use duct tape. Yep, just getting things set up there. I'll have to clean off my workspace, put the tablecloth on so it looks less like a old white table that has long-term stainage from a little bit too many festivals and whatnot. That's what happens when you have those white ones. I always buy black tables now for this reason. Anyway, somebody's doing that. People get sick, and then when you are canning like a normal person should, you're going to hear from them about how, Judy Hunt died with her home canned beans. Well, it's not home canned if you ran it in your oven at 250 for 4 hours. I just don't do it, guys. Don't do it. You got to be careful of your sources on stuff like this. Many people have, in your area, you'll have, what's that department called? I'm now forgetting the name of it. Where you ask them the last frost date and where I go get my probe tested for the pressure canner. Anyway, extension office. Whew. Getting old is funny, huh? My brain's all over the place. But at the extension office, they do classes. In fact, one of our community members, Don Gorham, does classes in, I think, Dixon, Tennessee. There are people all over. Do I have an Amazon affiliate link? Nope, I don't. Tori's like, I keep adding stuff to my cart. No, I don't have an Amazon affiliate link. I was an Amazon affiliate once. I was kicked out of their system because I was talking about this great garlic peeler I like using. And my mom heard it on my podcast and she clicked on the link and they considered that like an inside family thing, even though she heard about it on my podcast. I almost caused myself some woe. And so they kicked me out. I appealed it. They didn't care. And I was like, whatever. So now when I can do a link from Walmart, I do, just because Amazon's affiliate program's great if you don't tick them off. And if you do, there's just no way to get back on the truck. And that's fine. You know, it's their business. They can do what they want. But as a result, I purposefully go out of my way to not share Amazon links. And, you know, that's the flip side. It's like, well, if you want to give a tiny commission, and it is a really tiny commission anyway, on this stuff, then do so. But then if you're going to make it impossible, you're going to frustrate people like me. And then people like me are going to be like, never mind. I don't want to use your stupid link anymore to anything. That's because I'm petty. But that is what it is. So awesome. Okay, I've got some pretty cool stuff going on with a surprise ferment for the class. I've got the sauerkraut I made in advance so you can see what it looks like. I've got the sauerkraut I started last night so you can see what it looks like. And then we're going to make even more sauerkraut today, as well as pickles, the third surprise thing. And the best part of it is that I'm going to end up with all this fermented goodness at the end of it. We're serving the sauerkraut at my fall food forest installation workshop. I usually have sauerkraut one night because some people have never tasted like truly home fermented sauerkraut. And it's a lot different than many of the sauerkrauts you can buy in the store. So, hey, as I'm walking around, can you still hear my audio? Because I just like left the room and put my crock pot away. Walmart does have affiliate links, Tori. I'm set up as an affiliate. I should probably get that set up better. Renegade Butcher has one. It looks like. Yeah, I use Jax. Kick Jax some love on the Amazon links. Again, the Presto is not the gold standard. That's not the one he recommends, but it works. It has worked for me for 15 years. Things that go wrong with it are as follows. If you run it on the stove with nothing in it, it will warp. So will the American standard. All-American, sorry. So will the All-American. So you don't want to do that. And there's a gasket around the top that can need replacing. I have a spare one on hand. I have replaced my gasket once in 15 years. They're not very expensive. You can lose the weight. I've lost the weight twice, and I have a third one now. And that means that there are like 5 canner weights somewhere in my preps. And the minute I find those, I will put them back where they go. What happens at my house is I do events, and sometimes people put things away, and they don't realize that there's like 4 square inches in my house where canner weights are supposed to be stored because I lose them all the time. And so that happens. There is a plug that if you forget that your pressure canner is on and you walk away and the pressure builds up too much, instead of exploding, this plug blows and whatever's in there squirts out. So you always want to aim that towards the back of your stove. But that thing can need replacing. I actually have an extra one of those just in case I become forgetful. And there is, I guess I'm going to need more garlic today. Garlic, where are you? Anyway, there is a safety that makes it so you can't open the lid when it's under pressure, and it's a little thing that thunks up when it gets to when it starts boiling. That thing, here's my garlic. This is beautiful homegrown garlic from the Holler Homestead right there. That thing can blow, and if that blows, you're sad. But if it gets broken or something, like Tacticals doesn't have that part. Somehow when it got like packed up by the military movers, that part disappeared. And I feel like maybe they took it off because it sticks out. Maybe he took it off. Nobody knows. So that part is also purchasable. And, so that's it. That's what can go wrong with it. It's very easy to fix. Most extension offices, but not all, will test the pressure gauge. Oh, the pressure gauge can break. My pressure gauge is off on mine by one click. And when they tested it and told me that, they said, so you can either can everything one click higher. And if you look at the gauge, you see that it never goes all the way to zero. Filling my water bottle. I'm not peeing, in case you can hear that. You can either do that or replace it. And I have just been canning with it that way, but I also have a replacement gauge in case I ever need it. Plus, there are 3 canners here with 3 gauges. So it depends on which one I'm using, what I do. So, yeah, the constant water bottle struggle here. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this live stream. You guys got any other questions before we sign off? I've got about an hour to get ready for this this webinar, and I'm super stoked about it. I'm setting up a second computer next to make sure I can switch from slide to slide, and that'll be a Zoom test that is not streamed on the internet. And I need to train the redneck. Yeah. Oh, good. 5 times 5, whatever that means. I use pink salt for my ferments. What's your favorite? Josie, salt is salt. Pink salts can add a cloudiness to the brine that I don't care about. Certain salts bring things in that make vegetables soft, but if it's working for you, it's fine. And if your vegetables are a little softer than my kosher salt ones, that's fine. I use kosher salt mostly, but I also have pink salt that I use sometimes. I don't fuss a lot about the kind of salt because it does not really impact the chemical process unless it's bringing other things. How to find salt in bulk for fermenting. I buy it. I go online and I type kosher salt bulk or salt bulk, wholesale salt. I actually got my pink salt. I got maybe 100 pounds of that, 50 to 100 pounds on auction at Mecklemore Auction. They were auctioning off pink salt, and I got it for $1 a pound, and that was pretty darn awesome. But before then, I would buy a 20-pound bag of pink salt every year. It's 10 pounds every year from Amazon. Probably can find it on Walmart too. There are lots of ways. Just start looking for bulk salt, and you can get all different kinds of salt in that way. And if you source it through restaurant supply sources, you can get it that way too. It's a good idea. I like to keep a lot of salt on hand because I don't like running out of it. I was actually on vacation with Chef Brett and his wife, and they were making salt. We were at the sea, and he was making salt. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So they've made salt every year they've gone on vacation to this particular location from that particular location. And so they can taste what the salt tasted like different years because they're basically boiling down seawater and then running it through a dehydrator, I believe is how they do that. So Josie gets it in bulk from Azure Standard. So Tori, check out Azure Standard. I've heard a lot of good things about them. I've never used them. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up now and hope to see some of you on the webinar. Ask me lots of questions. Make it a great week.